Welcome, everyone. I'm Councillor Lee Hunt, Cabinet Member for Planning Policy and City Development. The meeting is being webcast to allow the public to attend remotely if they so wish. Please be advised that the public seating area is not in view of the camera used to webcast this meeting. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room and public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble at Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust fire marshal regulations, anyone who signed in the Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. May I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed. Everyone speaking will be on camera. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones and put them up fairly close to your mouth, for my sake at least. And remember to switch them off when they've finished. We'll go around the table. Start with you, Councillor Smythe. Thank you very much for coming this morning.
Judith Smythe, elected councillor for St Jude Ward.
Right, thank you. And
Chair of the Planning Committee.
Thank you very much indeed. James?
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I'm James Harris. I'm the Senior Local Democracy Officer.
Mr Maguire?
Good morning and apologies for my slight delay. Ian Maguire, the Assistant Director for Planning and Economic Growth.
All right, thank you very much all for coming along. So I've got apologies from Councillor Brent. Any members got any interest to declare? No. And nobody's asked to make...
I've got no interest to declare, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smythe. I'm not aware of any deputations at this meeting, and I hereby approve the record of the previous meeting, which I've signed. So now we go on to the recommendations from the Scrutiny Management Panel in respect to the call-in of the decision taken by me, the Cabinet Member for Planning, Policy and City Development on 26th of July 2022 in respect of item 4 on that agenda, options for increasing planning committee capacity. Ian, do you want to quickly introduce the report? I mean, everybody knows the ins and outs of this by now.
Yes, I will be very brief. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Yes, obviously this matter was called in for Scrutiny Management Panel, where they wish to express concerns about what you may or may not have been aware of when you previously made your decisions. They've expressed their concerns in the attached report, and the City Solicitor has been able to bring back to you some further details on the 3 options that are available to you. They are in paragraph 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3 of the report, which, as clearly say, you can amend the decision you made in July, you can confirm the decision you made in July, or you can refer this matter to Governance, Audit and Standards Committee for their comment prior to, at a future date, reconsidering that point again.
Councillor Smythe, would you like to make any comments or...
Yes, and I do think this is a genuinely difficult matter, and it's on record that at the Scrutiny Management Panel I in fact voted that we should be allowed to stick with the decision you made, but I did so really feeling a bit uneasy, because normally I'm a stickler about governance, and Graham Heaney, who's was also on Scrutiny Management Panel and is our kind of constitutional expert in the Labour group, voted just the other side of the line and said no, he thought that the process had not been looked at. I think we all agreed that the whole matter needs to be looked at by the Constitution Working Party, and I want to place it on record again today that that is an important part of it. I think I think it's difficult to know what exact powers in this kind of way any spokesperson from Cabinet member has to change constitutional matters, and I think it needs considerable clarity. And I also think that they ought to look at the choices they give to members when they are making decisions. I'm not quite certain why we get these sort of, you can only make 3 choices. I thought that any committee could make any decision it liked within Constitution, and certainly the decision that I wanted the scrutiny panel to make was that they could require the matter to go back to being looked at by the Constitution Working Party, but for some reason it's ruled that you can't introduce new recommendations. I think that needs to be looked at as well. I would feel in this matter that we should go back to Governance, Audit and Standards Committee. Certainly yesterday at Planning Committee we had 3 or 4, I think we had 4 decisions which we didn't find to be contentious, and which only had 3 members of the public making objections, none of whom turned up to do deputations. And those could all have been dealt with under delegated powers. There were a couple that couldn't have been dealt with under delegated powers, and 2 HMOs which we normally don't deal with and have a sort of standing order that we don't deal with. But it would have made that committee much quicker, and we could have fitted on another 6 or so applications to get rid of the backlog. So so my view is we should take into account the matters raised by the Scrutiny Management Panel, refer the matter on to Governance, Audits and Standards Committee. I don't think it would be sensible to make either of the other decisions, and I would ask that the Governance, Audit and Standards Committee meet as quickly as possible to resolve this, so that we can avoid having such a backlog in the planning permissions that need to go to a planning committee. That's all I really wanted to say, Chair. I find it useful if some of those things were minuted, please.
So, thank you very much indeed. Just a couple of things on the options. I mean, so far as I am aware, the cabinet member will make what decisions he or she wants. So, for example, when I was in another role for culture, the officers recommended to me that we only do the Victoria's Festival for 1 year. And that was their very firm view. But I knew from the deputations and the evidence I'd been given that that wasn't feasible for the Victoria's Festival. And if we'd made it only 1 year, they couldn't invest the money to make it work well and into the future. So I deleted all the recommendations and gave them a lease of the common for 5 years, plus another 2 years after that if they wanted. So I think that can be done. But
I think, Chair, you'll recognise that that was not a constitutional decision.
Oh no, I agree.
And I think there is a difference.
Yeah.
And I do understand our constitution pretty well, and I think that this was on the line of being constitution, whereas your decision clearly was, and in fact, indeed, it is quite common in some committees for the recommendations of officers and the recommendations to be questioned and turned over, and that's indeed why we have members involved in these matters. So I think it's the constitutional issue that persuades me that option 3 is the one we have to take here, because it doesn't do any of us any good to have a head-on on the constitutional matters with the Governance, Audit and Standards Committee, whose decision on this was pretty clear, actually.
Sure. So I was, because I completely accept the arguments on the constitutional issue, but I thought you were under the impression that a cabinet member has to do a particular option. I'll just give an example where...
Certainly not under that illusion,
all right.
Except where there's a constitutional
Yeah,
matter.
all right, that's fine. I got that. So the other thing I wanted to touch on was my regret that this is delayed again. I made all my arguments at the Scrutiny Management Panel, and as you say, it was very fine. But you needed the casting vote of the chair to do what I consider to have frustrated the backlog and to make it worse. But I'll make these arguments again at the Governance, Audit and Standards Committee when I hope it will go through. So there's not really much more to add, because this is just a refer. Does it come back to me after that again? Oh, for heaven's sake.
I did wonder if we couldn't make a decision here now.
No, we can't. We have to refer it for the constitutional reason.
No, I'm just saying, if it is possible for us to make the 2.3 to agree with that recommendation, and then to make a following recommendation that said we would further recommend that as soon as that decision is made, we go back to the decision that was the decision that we made before, to save time. Although I doubt you're looking sceptical, Ian. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
all right.
It looks like we
okay,
can't
Judith,
do it.
fine. So we may have others who take a different view, even so, and I can't look into the future, into their minds. We will have to come back, unfortunately, and we have to give 7 days' notice, I think, for those very constitutional reasons, to make sure that everybody is alerted. And unfortunately, it is another delay, which is most regrettable. And I'll be honest, you know, I welcome members' representations on the governance orders, on the constitutional issues. And I looked at it, but I felt the urgency of getting people's planning decisions decided outweighed any harm caused. And so we will have to make these arguments again at gas. So I'm making the decision. I don't want to go on, Judith. I've got a funeral to go to. Go on.
I was going to say we have seen the consequences of making quick decisions without good advice in our national government at the moment. So I do think the constitutional is very important.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not riding roughshod over it. I just looked at it very carefully, and I looked at the precedent that had been set by Councillor Hugh Mason, except that he did refer it to gas. And it seemed to me the precedent was set then. So we'll make these arguments again at gas. Anyway, so my decision then is, gentlemen, and Councillor Smythe, is taking into account the matters raised by the Scrutiny Management Panel, refer the matter on to the Governance and Audit and Standards Committee for commencement prior to either amending or reconfirming the decisions made on the 26th of July 2022. All right, so that's my decision. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll be back here, I suppose.
Chair, we're going to approve the minutes.
I've approved the minutes already.
Okay, I had no questions, but normally, as a witness to them, I would have said they were fine.
Beg your pardon, all right. I'm so sorry. I did that at the beginning of the meeting when I said about the minutes. Up there, and I said, I'm not aware of it. No. I hereby approve the record of the previous meeting. Sorry, Judith. But nothing happened then. All right, that's over and done with. Thank you very much indeed.